Hey guys, it's DanSpex here, and I was thinking back to that Power Surge trailer Sega put out at last year's Game Awards. And it got me thinking that it's really cool to see them bring back a lot of their older IPs with brand new games no less. You got properties such as Golden Axe, Crazy Taxi, Streets of Rage, and the one I'm personally most excited for, Jet Set Radio, with more in development and all making a comeback after years of being dormant. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I've never played any of these classic Sega titles. I just never got around to playing them, as a lot of these games released before I could even hold a controller. And I guess I never looked into getting them as I got older. As I said before, these games have been pretty much forgotten about at the time. So my focus has mostly been on the properties that Sega releases frequently, i.e. Sonic and, Sonic. So I'm glad that with these new games coming out, it'll give not only me but others the opportunity to play these franchises for the first time. God only knows I need to play different games other than those that feature that blue rat. However, I like Sonic, and I'm super excited for these new Sega games, so I thought, why not put these two concepts together? Oh, Jesus! So that's what I'm going to be doing. How would Sonic look in different Sega franchises? I chose 3 different games that I thought would be cool to see how Sonic would look in their art style. So let's get into it with the first game. Now, the art style for Jet Set Radio is very sketchy, as you'll notice that all the outlines on the characters are never clean. They're very messy sometimes, even overlapping each other. Some lines are thick, some are thin, so there's really no consistency when it comes to the line work. In the key character artwork, there isn't really a whole lot of shading going on, but on the cover art, they do have at least a little bit of shading, so I decided to go ahead and do the same, just to add some visual flair. Also, for the 3 characters in Jet Set Radio who don't wear glasses, they also have no pupils, just solid colored irises. So it was important that Sonic doesn't have his normal eyes, although looking back at it, I should have made his eyes a dark green rather than just straight black, but whatever. Now, in terms of the design I gave him, I bet a lot of you are wondering why I didn't give him the outfit that most fans do, such as in Project M or any other mods. And that's because for this and the other designs that we'll get into later, I wanted it to feel like Sonic was designed as if he was intended to be in these games in the first place, as opposed to him just wearing the main character's clothes. And that goes for any character you want to put in a different art style of a franchise. You never want to just swap their clothes with the most recognizable character of that property and call it a day, because then that just makes it feel like they're going out trick-or-treating or something, rather than being in that character's universe. If you're wanting to look in further on how to translate characters into different art styles, might I suggest the videos of the gifted and very talented Harry Gold show. He goes more into detail of how to do just that, and has served as a huge help with these drawings. Link to his videos will be in the description. However, that's not to say that outfit is bad for Sonic. I actually quite like it, and it works for what it's used for, as a reference. It's just when putting him in the world of Jet Set Radio, I wanted to give him his own identity. I even snuck in some references in there, like the headphones that are made to look like the springs, and the design for his rollerblades are kind of a combination of the soap shoes and a decal that's kind of reminiscent of the one on the tornado. Even the markings on his shirt is his name hopefully translated correctly to katakana, as after doing some research, that's what the markings mean on the other characters in the game. Although since I gave him a shirt that opens up in the middle, you can only see part of it. And lastly, I gave him this white outline with jagged spikes, as a nod to Jet Set Radio Future, as I thought it just simply looked cool. And there you have it. here's my attempt in putting Sonic in the Jet Set Radio art style. Overall, I like how it turned out. I especially like the posing and the fact that I got to do one of my favorite techniques with the foreshortening of him holding the spray can, as it's how a lot of the characters are drawn in the game. Now, let's move on to the second art style change. The art style for Samba De Amigo is actually very similar to Sonic's own art style, which should come as to no surprise because it's done by the same artist, that being Yuji Uekawa. So that makes things a little easier to translate, although I didn't just want to copy the adventure style and give him maracas, as there are still some differences I had to take into account. For example, the characters in Samba De Amigo have more simplified shape anatomy, if that makes sense. Like with Amigo, you can see that he's primarily formed out of squares and is very blocky. Or this butterfly girl that I didn't even bother looking up the name for, uses a lot of circles in her design. I guess the best way I can describe it is that it is very simplified and pronounced. All the lines are smooth and conform to the surface of their base shape, whereas in Sonic Adventure, characters are a lot more detailed with their cheeks and eyebrows protruding out in order to give the characters more depth. So here I made Sonic's head more smooth, like his face is a texture on a sphere, as well as giving him equilateral triangles for ears. His face was really hard to get down, as I didn't just want to make it look like how it is in Adventure, so I kinda combined Sonic's facial features with Amigo's and made a sort of middle ground between the two. I definitely don't think the face is the best looking, but I think it gets the job done of looking like the design traits of Samba De Amigo while having Sonic's iconic facial features such as the Cyclops eye and the side mouth. He also has 4 fingers, which I was very hesitant to give him, as characters in the game don't have a consistent number of fingers between one another, and even the same characters in different titles switch it up as well. Which is kind of weird because I thought in Japanese culture, characters mostly have to have 5 fingers, because if a character has 4, it references the Yakuza or something. Like, it means a finger was chopped off, but I don't really know. And I've never played Samba De Amigo, so I don't know if it's an exception because they're animals or if there's a reason behind it. If anyone knows about any of that stuff, leave a comment down below. I'm really interested to hear why that's the case. But I just ended up giving him 4 fingers just to make it more visually distinct, and because it seems like that's what the majority of what the characters roll with. Anyway, moving on from counting fingers, I gave Sonic some appropriate attire that's in line with the theme of the game, that being Mexican, with a zigzag pattern on the poncho to kind of be like the zone title screens, as well as a big ol' sombrero. And probably my favorite detail that I added is that the maracas are designed like the chow eggs. I just thought this was a cute reference to throw in there, as it works so well. Like, if they were to put Sonic in as a character in a future game as like DLC or something, I really wish that's what they do for his maracas. Finally, just going into the details, like the line work is pretty much the same as the adventure style, with there being a thick bold outline with smooth edges where the lines intersect. Although there's no shading like in the adventure artwork, as characters are completely flat with no highlights, not even an eye shine. I also use a lot of the same color palettes from Samba De Amigo just to keep it more true to the game aesthetic, and remembering that the character's fur have this distinct line/confetti texture on it. And there we go, another Sega property down. I really like the aesthetic of how this one turned out, although I'm still not sure about the face. He honestly feels kinda cursed with that blank stare. I still feel like it falls in line with the game. Now for the final change in art style, let's see what Sega game will leave off with a bang. Alright, Persona 5. Out of all the games mentioned in this video, this is actually one that I've played. I'm not super far into the game, I'm only like 20 hours in. And from what I've been told, that's probably only like 15% completed, so still got a ways to go. But anyway, this one was probably the hardest to get down for me because, one, Persona has such a unique and amazing art style that is super detailed, and I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to capture it. And two, it's anime. I'm just not too familiar with drawing in the whole anime art style just because it leans more towards realism, and I like to make silly little cartoon doodles. Like, it's still cartoony in a way, but it definitely has more realistic details at play, such as the folding in the clothes and the more realistic shading. It's not really my strong suit. But I still wanted to give it a try, as I was really passionate about this concept, and I just love the aesthetic of Persona 5. It's oozing with visual flair and personality. And I do think it's important to step out of your comfort zone every once in a while as an artist, in order to further improve and expand your skill set. And as it turned out, this one actually ended up being my favorite out of the three. First off, I wanted this piece to be as if Sonic was a part of the Phantom Thieves, and I wanted to give him his own splash screen for his all-out attack. For those of you who have played Persona know, each character has their own unique splash screen when you summon an all-out attack on their turn. These screens are just beautifully done, matching each character's portrait with their personality. They usually have something off to the side that communicates this. So with Sonic, I gave him some of those visuals you'd see in the UI of Sonic Generations. I made sure to give him that anime-esque smile, as well as making his quills curve up where it connects to his head, just to give it a little more depth. As far as what his outfit and mask should look like, I actually did some research on what Sonic's persona would be, just to help me figure out what he should dress up as. Again, those of you who have played Persona may know that each character's main persona is based on a fictional or historical thief or outlaw. For example, Joker's persona is Arsene, which is based on Arsene Lupin. Ryuji's is Captain Kidd, and Morgana's is Zorro. No, not that Zorro. Yeah, that one. And so on and so forth. And their outfits and masks portray their personas as well. So in researching who would be a good fit for Sonic's persona, I came across a man by the name of John Navision, who is also known as one of Britain's most notorious highwaymen. See what I did there? The highwayman? Kind of like the highway, which cars go really fast on. And like Sonic's had a couple stages with the word highway, like speed highway and radical highway. Whatever, I thought it was clever. But apparently this guy's story is that he went on a 200-mile dash getaway on his horse after committing a robbery just so he can have an alibi. Dude really thought he wouldn't be guilty if he was at a different place, with it being most likely days after the crime was committed. That's like robbing a bank and driving 3 hours away only to get caught and say, "There's no way I could have robbed that bank between now and 3 hours ago. I would still be in that same town if I did." I don't know. It just seemed very funny to me. But anyway, I based his outfit on him mostly with this picture. There weren't really a lot of photos to base it off on. But I liked how the mask had these little horns at the end, so I made sure to include that, as well as the British soldier type suit he's wearing, into my design. I made his suit a dark blue with purple gloves, as I feel like that color scheme really fit well with Sonic. But yeah, otherwise, all I had to do after that was focus on the shading, which took a while, as again, I'm not too familiar with doing complex shading. This was by far the longest one out of the three. And then last thing to mention is that each member of the Phantom Thieves have their own style of shading when it comes to using halftones. Some match the color of their suit, some are a completely different color, some use it very minimally and others use it a ton. So there wasn't really any consistency when it came down to that aspect. So I did my own thing with the halftone pattern, in that I made it look like little sparkles, kind of like the ones you see at the beginning of the Sonic 2 title screen. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Here's Sonic as if he was part of the Phantom Thieves. Again, this one is my favorite out of the three, just from everything that went into making it. From the research to the design and the final product. I just feel like a lot of creativity went into this one. And even though I could still use some work on my shading and detailing, I don't think it turned out all that bad. And that about concludes it for this video. I had a real blast making it and coming up with all these different designs and concepts. Again, I just wanted to try something new and experiment with different styles and exercises, and I hope you all had as much fun watching these designs take shape as I did making them. If you like this video, let me know down in the comments below if you'd like to see more like this in the future, and let me know what other video game franchises you think Sonic would be cool to see in. Maybe in some Nintendo games, in some Capcom games, who knows. But with all that said, thank you all so much for watching. I'm DanSpex, and I'll catch you later. Have a good one.